This is an absolutely fantastic piece of art, but sadly I don't know who the artist is, so if you know, then please let us all know in the comments below. In this piece we have Space Marines of the Blood Angels chapter being ambushed by Orks. I say Orks, but there's only one. The picture is really quite interesting because there's some odd things happening in it. Firstly, the Blood Angels have a very interesting pattern on their armour that you just don't see anymore. It was a thing in the early Rogue Trader era to have these sort of mottled or cracked designs. I think they look quite nice. It gives them a sort of stained glass window effect. Another thing we don't see so much of nowadays is personal art on the Marines, some armour graffiti as it were. One of the Marines has a shark mouth in the style of World War II fighters or the helicopters in Vietnam. These shark mouths really suit the Mark VI armour, and I wish it was still a thing. I should be keeping a list of all the things I wish were still a thing and then make it a thing myself. The tank in the background is a strange design. It has a typical boxy Space Marine style, but it's not quite a Rhino, is it? I did think maybe it's a Predator, but looking at it closely, it appears to be more like a Sicaran, even though Sicarans weren't a thing back then. What do you guys think? There is, however, a strange box thing on the front of the tank that seems to be jutting out at a weird angle. I'm not actually sure it is part of the tank, but I can't see what else it could possibly be. Maybe it's just an ammo crate left on the floor or something. When it comes to the Ork, if it's an Ork, I think it is, we see a style that I don't think we've seen before or since. The Ork is wearing an almost Geiger-esque style armour. Not surprising given that a lot of the stuff around this time was heavily influenced by Geiger's work. I think the weirdest part of the Ork's armour is the thing on his head. It sort of runs up from his back to the top of his head, giving him that xenomorph look. I really like the look of it. Also, where the Ork has been shot, we can see a spurt of red blood. I was sure that Ork blood was supposed to be green, or have I made that up in my own head along the way somewhere? If so, please let me know. My name's Marcel, and this is Snakeworks. Now, I'm not normally a fan of Blood Angels, but I do fancy having a go at that cracked scheme. I think it would look really nice with that red ceramic look. The Dark Angels have won the Adeptus Astartes Galaxy Cup for the third time this century. Their football skills are said to be even better than their Xenos exterminating skills. Do you think Space Marines would be any good at football? And when I say football, I mean football, not American football. Our central figure is either the captain holding the cup up on behalf of the team, or is the chap responsible for presenting it to the team. It reminds me a little of the scene from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. On a side note, The Goblet of Fire was my favourite Harry Potter novel, and probably my favourite of the movies too. Chamber of Secrets being in second place, I reckon. Although it's been a long time since I saw or read any of them, so things might have changed. The Dark Angels themselves have some interesting attire on. It looks like some old Navy uniforms. The sort of thing you might see in Hornblower. I think it's quite fitting for Space Marines. The faces of the Space Marines are very weather-beaten. I would assume it's not the years, but the mileage. They also have a lot of service studs. One even has a rectangular service stud, and I can't say I've ever seen that before. An interesting little addition to their outfits are what appear to be knuckle dusters attached to their epaulettes. Is that the right word? There's actually also a few spikes dotted about on them, giving them an almost chaos vibe. Well, they are Dark Angels after all. On the table is a pile of junk. It looks like what might be a couple of old pistols and a jelly mould. You never know, it might be a blancmange. I haven't had a blancmange since I was around 9. Oh, by the way, I think they call it jello in the USA, and jelly is something else? Jam perhaps? Or marmalade. Next up on the examination table are these Eldar. There's a lot to unpack here, as there's so much going on. I had to zoom in on various parts of the image just to see what things were. The Eldar themselves, or should I say Eldari, look like your typical early Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader era Eldar, until you start looking a little closer. Some strange things then start to become apparent. Have a look at the Eldar on the right. Have a look at his arm, or should I say, his weapon. What on earth is going on there, hey? It's one of the weirdest weapons I've seen in Warhammer 40,000, and I've seen a lot. To me, the closest comparison I can think of is a Tyrannid weapon. It appears to have almost melded in with his arm. I think only Tyrannids have weapons that do that. Our Eldar appear to be in some sort of tubular environment. Tubular was a word for good or great in the 80s, I think. I would assume that's a surfing slang term. Also, I think Michelangelo from the Turtles used it a lot. Now, as it looks like a standard human structure, I would be pretty happy to assume this isn't the web way. So what else could it be? Well, to me it looks like some sort of subway system, like an underground system, but in space. There's even things that look like trains in the tunnels. At the edge of the tunnel is some sort of mechanical arm, the sort of thing you have in the grabber machines at the fairground. There don't appear to be any cuddly toys to win there though. Wherever they are, it's a big place, like King's Cross. I really like the atmosphere this piece of art has, and it really conveys the weird scale and aesthetic of early Warhammer 40,000. I feel this has been sadly lost over the years and has been replaced with a broken, ruined church look to everything. Bring back the weirdness, I say. Now 40k today is a lot more cookie cutter. Back in the day, you never really knew what was what. I do miss the mystique that the setting had. There were bits of art that made you wonder just what the hell you were looking at. I think the setting and the aesthetic all got nailed down around mid 3rd edition, maybe 4th. Since then everything's been pretty much the same. I'm pretty sure this is an Imperial guardsman, or an Imperial army man as they were known at release. At first, I thought he was wearing your typical officer's hat, but upon closer inspection, it appears to be one of those dealer visors people had in the 80s. You can see his hair sticking out of the top. I did used to like those dealer visors. Do they still make them today? His pistol is absolutely huge. Either that, or he's very small. Maybe he's a squat. Oh, or maybe a ratling. I also believe that's a las pistol. It seems very recognisable. All around him are what appear to be beams of light. It looks a bit like the opening of the Ark of the Covenant scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I guess those beams of light could be tracer fire, or just bullet trail effects. He might be being shot at. It is quite likely given the subject matter. Also, the look of determination on his face would indicate that too. There also what seems to be some sort of foliage around our man. It gives that sort of jungle look from the Predator, but I have a feeling this artwork predates that movie by a year or so. But I might have to look into that one. What year was Predator out? Oh yeah, it's the Macho Man! The Macho Man, Randy Savage. No, it's not him. I think this is an Inquisitor. This is what early Inquisitors looked like. A sort of mishmash of ideas from all over 80s culture. It's an interesting look, don't you think? Mr. Randy Savage here is also sporting a lovely cowboy hat and sunglasses combination. I've a feeling that's what the Macho Man wore too, although didn't he wear animal print hats? Our Inquisitor is also wearing a leather outfit, which also looks very similar to the outfit worn by Mel Gibson in the Mad Max movies. Again, an 80s pop culture reference that was borrowed a lot back then. Just go and look at the Orlok Necromunda gang. He's also wearing spurs. I wonder why he feels the need to. Does he ride a cock horse to Banbury Cross? Maybe he's going to see a fine lady upon a white horse. Either that, or he just thinks they are cool. Well, they're not. Randy is dual-wielding a lovely pair of machine pistols. I can't tell you what weapon they are exactly though. Probably early auto pistols. What do you think? On his right thigh is what looks like a badge. Is this what Inquisitors used to wear? Did they have a sort of police identification badge? If so, I think that's pretty cool, although more fitting for Arbites nowadays, I feel. I can't make out the writing on it, but it looks like it says hash brown. Talking of hash browns, that reminds me of McDonald's breakfasts. I know this is way off topic, but I actually prefer McDonald's breakfasts to their normal meals. What about you guys? Breakfasts or burgers? This is a very busy picture indeed. It's quite hard to make out what's going on. I believe this piece depicts an Eldar caught in the middle of a group of Orks, fighting for his or her life. The first thing I noticed when I saw this was just how big the Eldar's helmet is. It's huge. Also, it extends backwards more than it does upwards, which is interesting. There's also what appear to be vents on the back of it. Is that normal for Eldar? I don't remember those. On the Eldar's crotch plate is what looks to me like an early waystone. It's nice to see the artists bringing those in so early. I thought that was a newer invention. There are also some very odd logos on the Eldar's shoulder. A crescent moon and some rectangles. They remind me of bumper stickers and a plaster. Nice. Now when it comes to weaponry, the Eldar appears to be wielding a katana. Is that a standard Eldar weapon? The Ork in the background pointing his gun at the Eldar appears to be having a wonderful time. He's living his best life. What does that phrase even mean? Can anyone tell me? These Orks look a lot more like our contemporary Orks than the previous doggy-style Orks we saw. The Ork at the bottom left is wearing a helmet with Vietnam-style graffiti on it. Was it taken from the Vietnam movies of the era? Movies like Platoon and Apocalypse Now? I haven't actually seen those movies in a long time. Oh, and they do it in Aliens too, but I think that was also meant to be a Vietnam War homage. There's something written on the helmet, but I can't really make it out. Does it say Bad War or something? The helmet also has little horns that stick out of the side, like the helmet in Nightmare. Can anyone remember that? This is a very atmospheric piece, isn't it? It's really rather well done. The art appears to be depicting a charge or attack of sorts. They appear to be going over the top in the trenches, World War I style. Now I'm not quite sure who the faction we're looking at is. It's quite possible these are early Imperial Guard, but they could also quite easily be some local militia, pirates or rabble. One of the guys does have a large P on his shoulder pad. Is that an indicator that this is some sort of penal squad? Possibly. Oh, also the dead head on the left has a P on his helmet too. I'm going to go with penal squad, unless it means prats, piss artists or pillocks. Oh, it could be pirates. The gentleman nearest the camera reminds me of a lad I used to go to school with. I won't name him as he's probably watching. Sadly, his face looks more orc than human. It looks like his head shaver failed halfway through the job. There's a lot of lines of baldness there. Now these chaps look very grim, but I guess it's their right and privilege of people in a war zone. The geezer up the top right with the long hair actually reminds me of Clancy Brown, the Kurgan. Highlander is another great movie. The second one, not so much. Again, due to it being an old piece, the weapons are a little inconsistent in their design. I'm assuming these are auto weapons of some type or another. The guy leading the charge has a very large and strange looking weapon. It looks a bit like the smart gun from Aliens, but I don't think I can see the steady arm mount that they use. The smart gun was awesome. A lot of the designs in Aliens were great. No wonder people borrowed so much from it. So today's big question is, which is the best of the Alien movies? When I was younger, I preferred Aliens. But as I find myself getting older, I've noticed I lean more towards Alien. Wonder why that is. Both are great. The sequels, not so much. I would have liked to have seen that Neil Blomkamp Alien 5. I never know how to pronounce his surname. I think that would have been good. But no, we had to get that Covenant movie where they ruined everything by making David the creator of the Alien. A terrible idea. Ruined the mystique of the Alien itself. I hope they can retcon that somehow. Anyway, what on earth is going on here? This is very odd, isn't it? It's great. So I think the chap in the armour is an Inquisitor, and it would appear he's having someone brought before him. The Inquisitor's armour is very strange. Look at the state of it. He's got a toilet seat lid on the top, for crying out loud. I think this art is based on the Inquisitor Augustus miniature, or vice versa. Why do you think the shoulder pads are so high up like that? Is it to protect the sides of his head? There's also what looks like a viewport on his chest. What's he got in there? Krang? 10 internet cookies to those who know who Krang is. I've also just realised in that armour, he looks like one of the failed Robocops from Robocop 2, the one that shoots the two scientists and them himself. That was a great scene. Now at first glance I thought the guy holding the prisoner's chain was naked from the waist down, but I think he's just wearing really tight trousers. They must be uncomfortable. I think these guys are normal run-of-the-mill Imperial guardsmen. The helmet is very recognisable. Our Inquisitor is also holding an old mobile phone. Do you think he's about to take a selfie with the criminal? Do you think social media still exists in the year 40,000? If so, what form does it take? Here we have what appears to be another militia rabble. That's not your typical Imperial Guard uniform of the era. The uniform these guys are wearing looks more like a set of overalls, gloves, boots, and a Mexican wrestler's mask. I assume they have a proper name. These guys' boots are massive. They're wearing really big wellies. When I was a lad, I always wanted a pair of those green wellies with the frog's eyes on. I never did get a pair, and I was always very jealous of people who had them. This time, the weapons look like some sort of auto rifle. Again, it would appear we don't see much of the lasgun early on, eh? At the rear of the picture is a very interesting looking vehicle. Again, I don't think I've seen one like that before or since. It does, however, look a little like a rhino in places to me. The overall shape, the front viewports, and the pointy nose are quite rhino-like. The tracks, however, are very different. This one also has a big, wide, open-topped section, which is something the rhino doesn't. Maybe they just took the roof off. Also in the open-topped area, there's a massive contraption, which I assume is a weapon of sorts. It's got little bat wings on the wingtips. Why does the weapon have wings? Maybe it's not a weapon, and it's some sort of strange piece of communication equipment, or a drone launcher. I mean, it has wings, right? This is the sort of thing that I would love to have a go at scratch building if I had the time. it would look very era appropriate. Now I think I've said it before, but I love the look of Rogue Trader era scratch builds, be it vehicles, more terrain, or even titans. They have a certain handmade charm to them that we don't have today. I wondered where my watch was. It's over there somewhere apparently. I can hear it, but I can't see it. Anyway, this is the sort of thing we like to talk about in our friendly Discord server. If you want to come and join a friendly Discord server that's not behind a paywall, then check out the link up here somewhere. I'll also put one down in the description below. We look forward to chatting to you soon. Usain Bolt now joins the Imperial Guard, showing off his running skills. So when I first saw this picture, I thought I was looking at a race. A space race. But it's not a race, is it? I think the guardsman is doing his best to run away from what looks to be an explosion of a bomb going off or something. The guys in the background don't appear to be fast enough and are getting vaporized, sadly. Will our man be a fast enough runner? Will he succeed? What do you guys think? Now Mr. Bolt here is wearing your typical Imperial Guardsman uniform. Again, those helmets are instantly recognisable. Now I had to turn up the contrast a little, but at the centre of the explosion is a weird shape. It's to the right of the Guardsman in the picture. Now it is possible this is just another poor victim of the explosion, but to me it looks like the origin of the blast. It could be a strange Xenos or even a weird plant. That's the joy of pictures, you get to use your own imagination to come up with the narrative. Hi, I'm Steve-O and welcome to Jackass. That's him on the jet bike, isn't it? So what we appear to have here is one Imperial Guardsman attacking another one. Do you think we have a little Imperial Guard civil war going on here? Is this a moment depicting the Horus Heresy? Maybe the guy being attacked has just done something wrong and is being apprehended. Maybe he tried to desert. On the front of our victim's armour, he has a little box. Maybe this is a Chaos artifact. It looks a bit like the puzzle box from the Hellraiser series, which I think gets borrowed later on for some sort of Dark Eldar character, or should I say Drakari character. I don't know my Dark Eldar, so if you know the thing I'm talking about, then please fill us all in the comments below. On his right shoulder pad are a couple of what look to be buttons. I wonder what they do. Do they make his arms pop off? I've also just noticed that Steve-O on his jet bike looks very similar to the gyro captain from Mad Max 2, the Road Warrior. It's the same pose of him dropping the snake, isn't it? I need to go and rewatch that now. I love the Mad Max movies. Also, that's obviously not a gyrocopter. It is in fact a very early design of jet bike, which sadly isn't around anymore. Hopefully one day we'll see a revamped version of it. The most amusing thing of all, however, is the bayonet on the bolter. It's comically huge. Now I think it was a thing in the early days of Warhammer 40,000 to have competitions on who can draw or sculpt the biggest bayonets on weapons. Some of them were huge. I do find it was usually the bolters that had the biggest bayonets. Talking of bolters, I've got one of these in here. Look at this. This is a little pouch that came free with my Horus Heresy set last year, which I still haven't got around to painting because I'm terrible. Anyway, inside, oof, look at that, is a genuine faux coin, a Lunar Wolf coin. It's quite nice actually. But on the back, we have engraved here, it says, if you're enjoying this video, then please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. That means you, Adrian. If you are enjoying the content here on the channel, then please consider joining the Patreon, the link to which is in the description below, or up here somewhere. By the way, what's really on the back is the Horus logo, the Eye of Horus. I might use this in what? I can't use it for anything, can I? Okay, so I have to admit I am at a loss here. I don't know who or what this is supposed to be. I do like it though. I mean, it's possible it could be either a space marine, a guardsman, or any other random spacefarer. You never really know with these old pieces. It could even be an early design for an Inquisitor. The first Inquisitors were very odd indeed. Just ask Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau, or whatever his name was. Our man, however, does have lovely long blonde hair like Legolas. I guess it could be white, or any light colour really. I myself once tried to grow my hair long, and it wasn't the best. On his forehead is some sort of object. An object that looks like the gem in Vision's head from The Avengers. You have to say it like that. That's how the old arcade game said it. Anyway, I think they turned that gem into one of the Infinity Stones in the movies, but I've forgotten which one. Also, the Marvel movies now seem to have become really bland since Endgame, haven't they? I wonder why that is. Although his legs have what look like your typical science fiction armour, his torso again looks to be Mad Max inspired. It's that asymmetrical shoulder pad, isn't it? He's just missing the weird leg brace thing. Talking about his legs, are those exhaust vents on his calves? Does he have jetpack legs? If so, that's bloody awesome. On another side note, Mrs. Snakeworks really struggles with saying the word calves. It's funny. His right hand is holding what appears to be a Game Boy with a drill attachment. I'm not sure what the drill go would do, but I'm intrigued to find out. His right hand also has some nasty sharp looking talons, a bit like one of my ex-girlfriends. I've still got the scars on my neck. His weapon in his left hand has a flaccid barrel. It's dropping down a little at the end. I have no idea what sort of pistol it is, but if you know, then please let us all know. On his back is a deadly looking chainsaw. The teeth on it look very long and very sharp. An evil looking weapon indeed. Now, if you've ever seen the movie Conan the Destroyer with good old Arnie, you might recognise the creature's head on his back. Isn't that the same horned beast? Although this one is wearing sunglasses, and I don't remember any sunglasses in any of the Conan movies. Conan, what is best in life? Quash your enemies, see them driven before you, and wear the sunglasses of the women. That is good. If you want to see some more art-themed videos, then check out the playlist up here somewhere. And as always, thank you very much for watching.